It's a Tuesday afternoon. I already recorded a podcast episode this morning for The Emotional Truth. I did an interview right after for another podcast. I don't actually have any clients today. My husband's at work. My son's at his sports day camp. There's a networking call happening right now that I could hop on, and some part of me is tempted to, but instead I'm going to sit here on my deck on purpose so that this summer doesn't just blur past me. And I look up in September and go, wait, what just happened? Because at the beginning of July, that's exactly what did happen. My husband was off work. He was taking actual holidays and home. And instead of the two of us slowing down together, we somehow both got busier. We packed in more clients for me, a camping trip, a tractor pull, basically balls to the walls the entire stretch. And it wasn't until I had a chance to slow down with a close friend, actually sitting still for the first time in 2 weeks, that it hit me. Something has to give because I'm burnt out. You're listening to The Emotional Truth, somatic healing and nervous system regulation for the midlife woman who's done everything right and still feels stuck. I'm Leslie Turner, somatic practitioner and intuitive coach. I work in the body, and I have a pretty uncanny ability to see what's actually running underneath, the stuff that therapy touched but never quite moved. Because understanding why you do something and actually stopping it are two completely different things, and that's exactly where we work. We cover people-pleasing, mom burnout, perimenopause, relationships, money, and what it actually costs the woman who's always been the responsible one. Short episodes, real stories, specific enough to stop you in your tracks. Let's get into it. This is burnout. Not always the collapse in bed kind. Sometimes it's fatigue, no motivation, snapping at people you love, giving your absolute best to your clients, and coming home with nothing left in the tank. Now, as a former naturopath, I want to rule some things out first. If you are exhausted, get some blood work done. Thyroid panel, your iron levels, your hormones. I ran these panels for patients for years. And once that is clear, this episode is for what's left after. I've talked before in the episode, I believe it was episode 30, I did responding to Jenna Kutcher's essay about the hustle pattern underneath the exhaustion. Your worth being tied to your output. The fear of being seen as someone who can't handle her own life that keeps you going and going and going. If you haven't heard that one, please go listen to it first. This picks up where that one left off. Because knowing that those patterns exist did not stop the 2 weeks of hustle happening to me. And I know this stuff. I teach this stuff, and I still ended up there. What I noticed looking back at that 2-week span, every day ended fast. I would get to dinner and think, where in the heck did that day go? And underneath the speed was this distinct feeling that getting all of the stuff done that I got done gave me a real hit, a sense of purpose right in my body. And that felt good. That was addictive, but it wasn't joy. And I think those two get confused constantly. So I'm not talking about the big P purpose conversation, the what am I on earth here to do with my life? I mean something smaller and more everyday. The hit you get from checking something off your to-do list, from handling what needs handling that day. Purpose in this context is I did the thing, I'm capable, look at everything I handled. And then joy is something else entirely. Joy is actually being present with the people you love, with nothing to accomplish and nothing to prove, and feeling good about that. I love those moments. My family loves those moments, but we didn't get any of them in that 2 weeks of holidays. It kept getting swallowed by, yeah, but this still needs to get done. The to-do list will reset to 0 every single day. And the purpose hit is a hit of dopamine, a real physical reward response by checking things off the list. But because your list resets, you have to go earn that dopamine hit all over again tomorrow. But joy doesn't work that way. It doesn't need to be re-earned. Part of why that list never stops growing is that we don't have that village we used to. There's no one nearby who just absorbs some of the load without being asked. But even that's not the whole story, because there's a thing that I think doesn't get said enough. I'm going to say it, obviously, that the more capable you are, the less anyone checks on you. When it looks from the outside like you are handling everything, people stop offering. Nobody says, "What can I take off your plate?" What they say instead is, "I don't know how you do it all. You're superwoman." And that gets treated like a compliment. Praise for the very thing that's isolating you. Nobody follows up with, "Wait, do you even want to be superwoman?" Because, in my opinion, most moms don't. Most moms want the help. They just stopped being offered it somewhere around the point that they got too good at not needing it. So that's a loop. The more capable you are, the less support shows up. So you have to become even more capable to cover the gap, which makes you look even more like you don't need anyone, and around it goes. There is also a layer underneath that, and it's the one that actually keeps the loop running, because it's about guilt. Guilt about ease. So picture the house needing a proper clean, every room, the whole thing. Nothing's physically stopping you from doing it. You have 2 hands, you have the time, you have the capability, but you're tired. And I'm tired doesn't feel like a big enough reason to let it go, or to ask for help, or to pay someone else to handle it. So the asking doesn't actually happen. The asking gets put off until you're actually sick, until 2 nights of terrible sleep in a row, until the exhaustion finally outweighs the guilt. And only then does letting it go feel allowed. Notice what changed in that story. The house didn't get any harder to clean. The permission to ask for help did. That's the whole mechanism. It's not, "Can I afford this?" or "Is this urgent enough?" It's, "Have I suffered enough yet to let myself off the hook?" Wanting ease was never a good enough reason on its own. Suffering is the only currency this system accepts. So rest and ease end up requiring a collapse as the entry fee, which is exactly why so many women wait until they're flattened before they let anyone help them, instead of asking while they still have a bit of capacity left to work with. Now let's talk about what's actually going on physiologically, because it's not as simple as my stress hormone went up. So you have something called the HPA axis. Your hypothalamus will perceive a threat and release a hormone called CRH. That signals to the pituitary gland to release ACTH, and that flows into your bloodstream. The ACTH signals your adrenal glands to release cortisol. You've probably heard of cortisol. You don't have to have heard of the other ones. Normally, once cortisol is circulating, it feeds back, like a feedback loop, to the hypothalamus and the pituitary and tells them to stand down. It's kind of like a built-in shut-off switch. But under chronic stress, 2 things break. The trigger keeps refiring before the loop ever gets to reset, and the shutoff signal itself gets less sensitive over time. So cortisol just idles on a level of high instead of coming back down. But the reason I'm telling you this is this connects to what we said earlier. Your hypothalamus doesn't only respond to physical danger, it responds to perceived social threat too. So isolation, lack of support, the sense that you're carrying something alone with no one catching you, no one helping you. Your nervous system reads, "No one's checking on me. I have to do this all by myself," as a genuine threat, not just as an inconvenience. So the isolation loop isn't sitting next to the biology. It's actively part of what keeps the cascade switched on, which means real connection, actually being seen, actually receiving help isn't just a nice extra. It's one of the few things that gives your hypothalamus a legitimate reason to stand down. I used to recommend stress support supplements to patients for exactly this reason, but it barely touches it if the isolation and the guilt about asking for help haven't moved at all. You cannot supplement your way out of carrying something alone. In my monthly membership in the Intuitive Circle, we don't add more self-care to an already full plate. That's never actually the fix. What we practice instead is letting yourself be seen needing something out loud in real time. until it stops feeling like proof that you've failed. Now, the circle is on a summer pause right now, but the waitlist is open at leslieturner.ca/theintuitivecircle. Please put your name on the list and join us in September. There's something practical that I want to do with all of this. Have an honest conversation with yourself and with whoever you live with about where your capacity actually is on any given day. Not where you wish it was, where it actually is. Even quantify it. Put a number on it, 1 to 10. I'm thinking about this today because, yesterday things were a little rough for me physically. I have costochondritis, which is an inflammation of the cartilage around the ribs. And I had a flare up and it hit my neck and my shoulders and my chest. And on top of that, my son had a nightmare and I was up with him in the night. So sleep was a little sucky. And it was my turn to do lunches. My husband will put him to bed and I will do the lunches. And I said, I'm sorry, I have to go lay down. This is all I've got tonight. And the number was probably a 2, maybe a 3. Saying that number out loud to my husband was the actual practice, not just noticing it privately, but letting someone else see it. That's the piece that breaks the loop, not grinding through it alone or wishing it was a 7 or trying to force it to be higher. Being seen and not coping and finding out the world doesn't end. This matters even more in perimenopause because your actual capacity for stress can drop noticeably from what it used to be. And most of us don't update our expectations to match that. You hold yourself to the version of you from 5 years ago and then feel guilty when you can't keep up with her. Today's you might not need to keep up with her, though. Today's you might just need to be honest about the number and say it to someone out loud. So here's what I'd ask you to do this week. Number 1, rate your capacity. Put a number on it and say it to whoever you live with, to a friend. Not just think it. Say it out loud. Let someone see where you actually are instead of managing it alone the way you always do. I'm about to practice this the second I stop recording. If I was to rate my capacity right now, it's probably a 5 because I've done podcasts, I've done some stuff around the house, and I still have dinner to make tonight. But the next 2 hours between now and pickup are just going to be 2 hours. I'm not going to fill it with cleaning my car, even though I should. I'm not going to push through and hope that I'm at a higher capacity than I really am. Instead, I'm going to tell my husband where I'm at today. And that's not failure. That's the actual practice. I want to thank you for being here. If you're here and listening, you're already doing this work. See you next week. If this episode landed somewhere, don't just let it sit there. That feeling you have right now, that's not a coincidence. That's your nervous system telling you something is ready to move. The Intuitive Circle is my membership where we stop talking about it and actually do something about it. Twice a month, live with me, body-based, real-time, and specific to what's actually running for you. Doors open back up in September, and the waitlist is open now at leslieturner.ca/theintuitivecircle. Go put your name on the list. And if this was the episode that made you pull over and think, wait, is she talking about me? Please subscribe, leave a review, and send it to the woman in your life who needs to hear it. You know exactly who I'm talking about. Find me on Instagram at @TheLeslieTurner. Until next time, the fact that you're here and listening means you're already doing this work.